Hello, today my name is Salim Castiel. Today we'll be going over a book called I Had That Same Dream Again by story by Yoru Sumino and the artist by Idumi Kirihara. I really hope I got those names right. Okay, so again, the book itself is good. It has a good storyline to it and a good message to it that no matter what happens, you can still find that happiness and no matter what path you choose to take, there's still more paths that could come. The story follows of a girl who is young. She meets these three other girls. One is a shut-in, an old shut-in. The other is a high schooler who is suffering from what is portrayed as depression and self-harm. And the third is a mid-20s woman who pretty much sells herself and sells her body. Throughout the story, you learn that throughout more that you read the book, you learn that the three representations are herself and what path she could take. Because throughout the book, later in the book, you learn that she had lost her parents at a young age. And so it shows you of the three lives. It's like the three lives of the girl and the path that she could go down and how it could affect her. How it really kicked off and how you really come to know this is because she's in, believe in elementary school or some type of kindergarten. And they get an assignment about telling about what makes you happy. Like, where do you get your happiness from? So as she's trying to figure out what makes her happy and where she get her happiness from, she goes and talks to these three people. And so these three people, they tell her about their lives and what happened and how it came to this. And then in the end, you finally figure out that when she goes to visit them again, you figure out that they never existed, that they were just herself. If she had let this one bad thing affect her and what path she could take, and like the three different paths that she could go down and what could have happened if she were to make certain choices. Overall, the book is good. It's a bit of a long read because usually these types of books, it is a manga, which is a Japanese book. This is a complete collection, so it's kind of like thick, and you don't read it from how you would a regular book. You read it from the back to the front, which most people think could be confusing for if you never read manga. Another good thing about this, I think the good thing about this book is that it really portrays the choices of life and how you let one bad thing happen to you and let it consume you. It really gives off that portrayal within these three characters. Now, the main character's name, Nanoka. Sorry, I should have stated that firsthand. The main character's name, Nanoka. She's a great schooler. It's really good. Message is really good about how, like I said, it shows you the portrayals of this one bad thing happening, and it shows you three separate perspectives of how it had affected her or how it could affect her in the future. Another good thing about this is that it really makes you question decisions and what you choose to do in life. It's really like an eye-opener. It gets questions going like, okay, well, if I decide to do this, then this is what could happen. It really does a great job of showing more of the future and more of like the decisions people make in order to get where they become. Now, most of the characters in this don't regret the decisions they made, but they wish they could have done it differently. like the high schooler with depression. She wishes that she would have made more friends, more friends that wasn't so down and had all these insecurities. And another thing good about this book is like it also portrays like the feelings of grief with the high schooler, the feelings of I need to shut myself away with the old woman who portrayed self in solitude, and then with the middle-aged woman, I feel like it portrays that feeling of just losing it all, like letting it go, not letting anything affect you, just living life, having fun, but at the same time also still having those like self-destructive things, like it's not good for you to do. Now on to the bad things about this book. There aren't too many bad things about the book. At first, at like a first glance when you first read it, I was like, oh, you'll think it's not too bad, but the more you read, the more like it gets a bit confusing because it kind of like jumps around through characters and different people, and so it can get confusing of which character you're really trying to focus on, because you'd be in one chapter if it was on just still a girl, but then the next chapter it'll focus on this other girl. That's what I was saying in the background. And then another bad thing is like the storyline is kind of confusing for a first time reader. Like if you weren't really reading manga, it'd be kind of confusing to pick up on the storyline and find out what's actually going on in it. Because like I said, like the main problem is you read it from back to front, so that can also be confusing for some people. The storyline's good, but the plot of it is kind of confusing. This front and back kind of get confusing. That's what like my first time reading it, such something that's like this big, kind of got confused by it. Next confusing thing about it is you kind of can't tell which character you're trying to be focusing on, because it jumps around from like this character, and back to the school setting. So it's kind of all over the place. So it kind of like misdirects you, and like you'll try to guess maybe this is part of the plot line, maybe this is part of the storyline, but then in the next instant it'll switch up and talk about something else. Some things I think could use some work is maybe show some more betrayals. Maybe like in the beginning tell her, come out with like, hey, this is what happened to her parents, because you don't figure out what happened to Anoka's parents until later on in the book and figure out that they died. And when I got to that part, like, oh, okay, so these are pretty much the representations of her, of what she could choose to do. Because throughout the book I was kind of confused about it. I'm like, what is this really supposed to mean? They're just random characters? Does that have to do something with the main character? I feel like you should put that more towards like the beginning to get like a sort of basis to figure out what's happening and why these characters are so important. I don't have anything bad about this book, other than it's a bit confusing to read at first, and that the storyline kind of jumps around. But there's really no negative that I think they really did wrong. Some things I think that worked really well is that of, like I said, like the storyline was good when you actually figure out what it is, the portrayals it has in it, the relatability of it, how some people can relate to it, some people can't, some people can understand it. It's more of like, the thing I really think about this book is it's a good book, but it does have some mistakes in it, and some parts can be super confusing, especially in like towards the middle, because you'll go back to the teacher and she's asking her teacher questions, but don't really know what's going on. But overall, it's a good book. I would say this book, I would have definitely recommend it. And if you want like deep thoughts, something like that, definitely recommend this book. It's a really good book. And if people in the manga, I'd say it would be perfect for them. Yeah, this was I had that same dream again.